Hungry Friend. Chapter 1. Stranger in the Rain. I always return home, the same road. It's short but gloomy. Gray 5-story buildings, cracked asphalt, sparse streetlights that blink more than shine. In the daytime, it's just dreary, but at night, it's as if the neighborhood is quiet, lurking, watching. That night, I stayed late at the store. I was about to leave when thunder rumbled from the street. It was starting to rain. Shit. I slung my backpack on my shoulder and strode toward the house. Small drops clattered against my hood, dripping down my face. But through the sound, I heard footsteps. They were just behind me. I slowed down. The footsteps got quieter, too. I stopped. Silence. My heart was pounding. I turned around sharply. The street was empty. Only wet asphalt, the dim light of a street lamp, and a light fog creeping along the ground. Showed, I thought, and went on. But a minute later, I heard that sound again. Stomp. 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 Someone was definitely coming for me. I sped up. The footsteps sped up, too. It didn't seem like a play of imagination anymore. I felt a cold wave of fear run up my spine. And then a voice. "Where are you in such a hurry?" I flinched and turned sharply. There was a guy standing in front of me. He was tall, thin, with pale skin and dark, almost black eyes. His face seemed pale, his lips were dry, and his gaze was hungry. "Home," I answered, trying not to make a sound. The guy is created, thinking something over. "Can I come with you? I haven't eaten in a long time." I did not understand what he meant, but for some strange reason agreed. We walked together. Chapter 2. The Guest. As we stepped into the apartment, I felt everything inside clench with tension. Why had I brought him here in the first place? He sat down at the table and looked at me silently. "Would you like some tea? Something to eat?" "Yes," he said quietly. I put him in front of a plate of food and a cup of hot tea. He looked at it all for a long time, but didn't even touch it. "You're not eating." He slowly raised his head and smiled slightly. I wasn't talking about that. That smile. It wasn't right. Too comfortable. Too unnatural. I swallowed. "Okay," I muttered. "If you don't want to, you don't have to." But even as I turned away, I felt his gaze. He was looking at me. Chapter 3. Weakness. The next morning, I felt very wrecked. My head was buzzing. My body felt like absorbent cotton. I saw something strange in the mirrors. My skin was paler, and there were dark circles under my eyes. It was like I hadn't slept in a week. But the worst part, he was still in the apartment, sitting at the table, looking at me. "You look tired," he said, smiling wider. I didn't reply. A few days went by like that. I hardly left the apartment. The weakness got worse, and it became brighter, more alive. Now his skin was no longer pale. He no longer looked haggard. He moved confidently around the apartment as if he'd always lived here. I, on the other hand, was fading. I realized it the moment I looked in the mirror. A stranger was staring back at me, but it was my reflection. Chapter 4. Disappearance. This morning I couldn't get up, just lay there, staring at the ceiling. My head felt heavy, my body felt foreign. I knew, just a little more, and I'd be gone, just him. He sat on the bed and smiled. "Almost," he said. And then he went to the mirror, looked at his reflection, ran his hand over his face. "Almost like you," he added quietly. And then I realized I was already gone. That was just the first story. The scary part is just beginning.